Yo, what's going on, guys? Today we're talking about the Detroit Pistons, and of course, listen to this. They're allegedly interested in Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, Tobias Harris, Miles Bridges, and free agency. So with the Pistons having significant amount of cap space in the 2024 offseason, they're said to be targeting a player who could play power forward, according to Shams Charania. That he's saying that OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, Tobias Harris, and Miles Bridges. I personally think OG Anunoby and Miles Bridges are the best ones, best fits, and that they relatively fit the timeline better, and I think they won't cost as much. And all four players are unrestricted free agents, and the only players that the Pistons are considering untouchable are Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren in trade talks. We'll talk more about, what the trades would look like and which players, but let's just talk about Pascal Siakam because they have cap space and stuff. I mean, a Pascal Siakam deal would probably be a bunch of young assets and, salary filler with a combination of maybe picks of some sort if they were to go get a trade right now. But I don't think they're going to trade because they'd rather be like, hey, we have hella money and just get these guys in free agency, which is smart. Now, what do you get with Pascal Siakam? He's like, I think he might be the oldest out of the bunch, and he's a point forward, and I just don't think he works. He's a good defender. He plays two ways. He's a guy, he basically averages just under a triple-double. He's like one of those 27-5 guys who can average like 27-7. And, I mean, he's averaged close to 30 before, and his jump shot is inconsistent. He can play defense, guard multiple positions, but I just don't think fits the timeline, and the fit with Cade doesn't work, nor does it work with Jalen Duren. Now, Tobias Harris is a bit older, and I think out of everyone, he's probably the least, he's not a bad defender, but he's not the best. He's, out of all of them, he's what we would say is not the best, okay? He's the worst. And he's a three-level scorer. He's a guy who fits really well offensively next to Jalen Duren and Cade Cunningham. He fits perfectly. He's like the perfect third guy there in terms of a scoring-wise, but I just don't think he brings the defense or the leadership that they need if they were going to go with vet. Plus, he's older, and I just don't think he fits on the timeline. Now, I think OG Anunoby's, might be the most reliable player who he's going to give you a guy who's easily going to be probably with them, be their second or third leading scorer. He's going to be a defensive dog. He's going to help lead this team. He has a championship experience. He can do a little bit of everything. He can guard basically every position. He can be a 20-point scorer. He can be a secondary playmaker. He fits perfect next to Cade and Jalen. And he probably, to get him on the deal, he probably wouldn't be he'd be the safest bet. And then with Miles Bridges, you could probably get him on he could be the best bargain signing that you could get him on a relatively bargain of a deal that, like, in comparison to everyone else, is more of a bargain. And he could, pay off really well, and you get high risk. I mean, there's not a high risk, but, there's a bit more risk than everybody because we know what. And I think, Miles Bridges, I would go OG Anunoby first, and then Miles Bridges second, and Tobias Harris third, Pascal fourth, in free agency or a trade. Let me hear your thoughts, and this is the rest of the reporting we've heard. A potential target for the Detroit Pistons is Miles Bridges. Now, is it going to be now before the deadline, or is it somebody that they're going to go after in free agency, as he is a free agent this offseason, and it has been said that him and the Charlotte Hornets are mutually in agreement that they're going to seek to part ways after this season. Now, maybe the Hornets, Charlotte says, hey, we want to cash in right now, even if we won't get as much as we would have years prior. Let's just get whatever we can from a team that might be desperate, like the Pistons. And he's only, making just, I think, under $8 million. And it's actually something realistic. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts. What would your trade for Miles Bridges be? And what are your guys' thoughts on Miles Bridges? Now, Miles Bridges is a guy who this season, he came back and he's averaging 20 points, 7 rebounds, just under 3 assists, shooting 45.4% from the field and hitting that three-point shot at a decent clip. And he's still that guy who's athletic as hell, can play. It can be a jumbo 2 guard, kind of like play, or he can be a wing, or he can even play power forward in a small ball lineup. So he's a very versatile player. He's a two-way guy, and he's a great third or fourth option. He's on a championship team with 3 established stars. He would be an elite fourth option. He's a really good third option. And on a bad team, he's a solid second option. So the thing with him is that it comes down to what would the Hornets want in return for Miles Bridges. Now, the Pistons have a bunch of bigs that they could trade, but that's not what the Hornets want. And the Hornets kind of want to be a playoff team. So I think maybe somebody like Monte Morris would be somebody that would be involved in the deal. Now, again, let's get it down and give you the specifics. Also, I think another way to convince the Hornets is to see if you would eat some salary in a salary dump, just because the Hornets could maybe want to potentially get out of some contracts they don't want to see through. Now, specifically, Miles Bridges is making $7.9 million, and maybe they want to move on from, I don't know specifically if PJ Washington would be part of that package, and if the Pistons are desperate to get out of this, but I think the Hornets want to keep PJ Washington, and I don't think another guard would be the situation for the Pistons either. And I think Gordon Hayward's expiring money, so I think the Hornets are fine keeping him on the books, unless they find a third team for Terry Rozier and older young guys they like so far, because Book Knight's off the books after this season, and I think Cody Martin could be involved in the deal if they wanted, because the Pistons, what they could offer in return for Miles Bridges, 7.9 at the very least, like I said, is a deal around Monte Morris. I mean, Killian Hayes could be someone that the Hornets want more, but the Hornets need a backup point guard and they need shooting. So, I mean, when you look at shooting, maybe Isaiah Livers isn't thrown in that deal, or maybe they do move on from Al Burks, and that's $17 million now. And if the Hornets had to match that, maybe it is a deal of for Miles Bridges, Al Burks, and either Killian Hayes or Monte Morris, that's $17, $19 million. So just to do that deal, that would have to be a package of either Miles Bridges. I mean, they are technically, they could take money on, but it's going to be interesting on how they do this. I want to hear your guys' opinions. What would you guys do for this deal? As I don't think it's impossible, but I could also see that the Hornets won't play easy for some odd reason. Not that some odd reason. I mean, they probably value Miles Bridges to an extent, even though they are probably moving on from him. It's just I want to hear you guys' thoughts. What would you guys give up and why? I'm a fan of the idea. I've said it before. I think it's worth it because you're trying to find the guy who's going to help. For at least the Hornets' perspective, is you don't want to leave. You don't want to be the Raptors where Fred VanVleet just leaves for nothing. So that's just my thought. And I don't know. I think it's just something let's keep an eye out for, and let me hear your opinions down below in the comments section. If you guys are in agreement, or are you guys thinking that he'll stick around in Charlotte? Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something just to keep an eye out for.
Yo, what's going on, guys? We're here from James L. Edwards. A bunch of Pistons rumors that the Pistons are targeting OG Anunoby, Tobias Harris. We heard that the other day, that OG is somebody that they might just go for in free agency, but maybe they go for him now. Tobias is another guy, but same thing, they could go for both of these guys in free agency. And Miles Bridges is the big name that we're hearing. So that, yes, PJ Washington is someone that they're interested in, but someone that they've heard, that they've had internal discussions. James L. Edwards writes, the Flint, Michigan native is on a 1-year deal due largely to his off-the-court legal troubles, as he pled no contest to a DV felony charge. Now, he served a 30-game NBA suspension. He's back, and he's playing better than ever. he's a guy that they could trade for because they would get his bird rights and they would get basically first right of refusal or first right to offer instead of in comparison if they wait till free agency to go get him. And it also would help turn around the season that they're currently having, which has been abysmal. So it makes sense that they would be going after Mr. Miles Bridges. By the way, I'm on the beach right now, so if you guys hear anything, it's the beach. Now, there were rumors, the Pistons are a team that love reclamation projects, and John Collins has been put on the trade block, but James L. Edwards says his sources tell The Athletic that Collins is not someone Detroit is particularly interested in targeting. Obviously, things can change, but the power forward, who has reportedly already overstayed his welcome in Salt Lake City, isn't a priority for the Pistons. Detroit does not need any more power, big man depth, and Collins' ability to put the ball in the bucket though is something, and add vertical spacing is something that they do value. So I do wonder, as an ATV drives up by me as I'm on the beach, but it does make you wonder if that's something the Pistons might value, as his trade value is plummeting. But again, like I said earlier, league sources tell James L. Edwards of The Athletic that the Detroit Pistons are expected to be active in trade discussions leading up to February's deadline. Over the next 10 months specifically, the Pistons will look to upgrade their roster significantly, especially in free agency. But league sources tell The Athletic that the likes of OG Anunoby and Tobias Harris and other proven are people that they're going to target between now and free agency. So I wonder if they're going to go after Miles Bridges, if they're going to go after John Collins or OG, whatever. They need players, they need talent on this roster because it is not good. That is a fact. That is something that we all know. So I wonder what they'll do to turn that around and to improve the roster that they currently have, as I think there are players for them to go out and get. It's just a matter of how much they're willing to give up. But yeah, I think this was an interesting report that came out, and I want to hear your guys' opinions as we get closer to the deadline. What do you think the Pistons will do? I think the Miles Bridges rumors, they give up maybe like a combination of like Jay United, Kevin Knox, and like Gabriel Procida, and maybe like a first round pick, and that might swing the deal. Let me know your thoughts.